Well, with the Zags getting ready for their big Sweet 16 matchup versus Creighton, we do have a little bit of a recruiting update to give. Make sure that you do tune in on Friday. We will be posting a video very early Friday as we will have a decision from Hunter Salas, the 5-star guard out of Omaha who is projected to the Zags. We will know for sure on Friday. And as always, if you like the videos we're posting, make sure to hit a like, give us a subscribe as we can continue to grow our channel and give you more Zags and upper left content. But we have a little bit of different recruiting news to get to today, some very unexpected recruiting news. And if you kind of go back, now close to a year and a half ago, there was a guy by the name of Walker Kessler that Zeg fans were really hoping would make the commitment to Spokane. He ended up going to North Carolina, and a little bit of news came out yesterday that he will be leaving the Tar Heel State. And very soon after, we heard some rumblings that the Bulldogs are high on his list.
Yeah, it was huge news that definitely came out right away after that announcement. Came out, I believe Tipton Edits was the first to tweet it, that Gonzaga was a heavy favorite for Walker Kessler. And you and I talked about this. UNC fans are pretty devastated.
Yeah.
It's one of those, man, look up some forums if you want to see it, but they know what they're losing. And this is just a guy who seems like, COVID hit him harder than a lot of players this year. Of course, if you look at his stats, it might seem underwhelming, but this is a 7'1" center who was a 5-star recruit, number 14 in the ESPN class of 2020. And we saw flashes throughout the season here, but it looks like the Zags could be picking up a great big man.
Here's the statement that he put out after announcing that he would be transferring from North Carolina. He said, "I'm honored to have played for an amazing historic program like the University of North Carolina. Gratitude is all I feel for my teammates, coaches, trainers, administration, and staff. During a very difficult year for all of us, they were able to help me grow as a player and most importantly as a person. After careful and calculated consideration, I will be entering the transfer portal." And yeah, Tipton Edits, which if you don't follow on Twitter, they have a very big network within really the college basketball recruiting scene. They're typically very early on in different announcements of players, whether it be their final choice or their final 5. And so they posted something. And then right after that, we got a little bit of a response from another college basketball insider. That would be Andrew Slater, who quoted Tipton's original tweet saying, "Yeah, you heard that right." And then we heard from other kind of insiders like, "Yeah, this has been something we've been hearing for a few weeks now in some circles." And so you wonder, and the only school that's really come out is the Zags. What's interesting to me is he actually never took a visit to Spokane. He took his visit to North Carolina. His final schools were North Carolina, Duke, which can you imagine if he left UNC to go to Duke, Cal, Michigan, and Auburn. This kid's from Georgia. He did take a unofficial visit to Georgia. So when this news first came down, there were two things. First off, I knew he was from Georgia. I went and checked to make sure, he did take a visit to Georgia. So I'm like, in a COVID world, is he trying to get closer to home? This is before the Zag news came out. And then as we started to dream, like, he was tied to the Zags. Could he come back to the Zags? We're like, well, he's going to have to sit a year. He's going to go through that storied Gonzaga 1-year program, hit the weight room, and gosh, how good would that be for his game? But he may not have to wait a year.
Yeah, that was some news that came out as well. So as everyone knows, this has been a very weird year for college athletics. Of course, the NCAA did come out and say that this year would not count towards anyone's eligibility. But they also are going to be voting, I believe, during the Final Four, voting on a 1-year kind of bypass on that residency year where a player has to sit. And from a lot of talk, it seems like that vote is going to go through, which means a player transferring would not have to sit. And in this particular case with Walker, obviously that would be huge.
That's some news I don't think has really been put out there enough, because that's humongous. One thing, if you've been paying attention to the college basketball transfer portal, is the amount of players
It's massive.
who are entering the portal is enormous. And so you know that within college basketball, this is something that's expected to pass. So the fact that kids are going to be able to transfer next year and play right away, we've never seen in college basketball history. The influx and change we could see within the Division I ranks will be massive. And Walker Kessler could be wearing a Zags jersey early on next year. So stay tuned. As soon as we get that announcement, we'll definitely pass that along. But you mentioned it earlier, and this is a kid who didn't get a lot of minutes for North Carolina. He kind of got buried inside of that North Carolina front court, but he showed flashes this year. I mean,
Absolutely.
he had 2 games. The first one against Notre Dame, we will link the highlights in the description, because if you have not seen it, you need to watch it. You're going to get a little bit excited watching this highlight. 16 points on 7 of 11 shooting. He grabbed 12 rebounds. 5 of them were offensive rebounds. And he had 8 blocks and 2 steals against Notre Dame. Notre Dame, not a great program this year, but you saw the flashes in that game that we heard coming into college. Well, one game's cool. Well, did he do it again? Yeah, he did it against a Sweet 16 team in Florida State versus FSU. He had 20 points, 8 rebounds, 4 blocks on 9 of 10 shooting. And so to do that against a potential Elite 8 Final Four team with the length that Florida State has, I mean, if you're a Zags fan and we're all waiting on the Chet Holmgren news, you start thinking about the length you could have next year in that Gonzaga front court. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, exciting is an understatement. That length and the rim protection you're getting out of those 2 guys would rival probably the best rim protection Gonzaga's had in a front court. And you mentioned obviously that big game he had against Florida State. That game as well came after he had scored 10 points in the 3 games consecutive before that. So it really seemed like he was finding his rhythm there. Shortly after that game, he didn't get a lot of playing time again until that Notre Dame game. But again, I mean, UNC fans are gutted by this, and they know. And if you've watched Walker Kessler, you see the flashes. This is a guy who has an extremely good touch around the rim. He looks to finish when he can. But what I love about him is he has range out to that 15-foot area. Mid-range, he showed that very consistently throughout the year. He's got a great little post fadeaway, which when you're 7'1" and can shoot a post fadeaway off a drop step, it's almost an impossible shot to really defend, let alone block.
Unless your name's Taco Fall.
Yeah, unless your name's Taco Fall, you're probably not getting to that ball. And on top of that, man, this is a guy, he's not Brandon Clark athleticism, but he is a guy that can run the floor still incredibly well. He's got a good handle for a guy his size as well. So I think this is somebody who, in a program like Gonzaga, is really going to be able to show his versatility. And we're going to be looking at a lot different player come next year.
Well, he's 7'1", 245 pounds. What I love about his game is he uses all of that length.
Absolutely.
I mean, finding a guy, I don't care if you're 6'2" or 7'1", being able to make yourself big and use your length when you're 7'1", it's just not fair. I mean, in reality, the only guy in college basketball next year who may be able to block him could be his teammate in Chet Holmgren.
Yeah.
But I guess what I want to look forward to is a potential lineup next year. I mean, looking at this Gonzaga Bulldog team, obviously the NBA is looking at Joel Ayayi. Jalen Suggs is going to be gone. Corey Kispert's going to be gone. Both of us very heavily believe that Drew Timme will be gone. And the reason for that is he doesn't have much left to prove. This is a guy in Timme that he could end up averaging 25 points in the NCAA tournament. So far, he's really put this Gonzaga team on his back. If he continues that and this Zags team makes a Final Four championship run, Drew Timme is gone. And so I think with this Zags team next year, Ayayi is going to get feedback from NBA scouts. He will have the option to go and get drafted if he wants to. I think he's the most likely of those guys to return. We've talked about it before on the show that if he comes back, he could definitely have that Corey Kispert type progression, kind of be the dude next year. But we start to imagine a little bit what this team next year could look like. if Chet Holmgren decides to wear a Gonzaga uniform, you've got him. Let's say Walker Kessler comes to Gonzaga. There's your 4 and 5, right? Mm-hmm. Hunter Salas, who we'll be finding out on Friday. He's going to be a potential guard in an offense that's expected to be led by Andrew Nembhard. We've seen very promising flashes from Julian Strother. I think that's a kid next year that is going to be a star. I do expect Anton Watson in his junior season to make a big leap. And then the guy that we've talked about, a lot, obviously Dom's going to be coming off the bench. Dom will make a big leap as well. But the NCAA also gave seniors an extra year of eligibility. And so the guy that I'm very curious will come back is Aaron Cook. I think that's a kid that could really contribute on this Gonzaga team next year. So talk to me a little bit about, with that stack of players, how you see Walker Kessler fitting into that rotation.
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolutely stacked lineup. I mean, one player we didn't even mention on that as well is, of course, you have Caden Perry coming in this year.
Out of Battleground,
That's another big man down low. But if Walker Kessler commits and Drew Timme is gone, Walker Kessler is your starting 5. Mm-hmm. I think that is a foregone conclusion. I do not see him getting buried on a roster. Mark Few will find a way to make him a big part of this offense. And that right away, I mean, it just, like you said, it brings us to some potential lineups. We know Few leans towards usually starting, upperclassmen. So you're going to possibly be looking at a lineup of Andrew Nembhard, Joel Ayayi, Anton Watson, Chet Holmgren, and Walker Kessler. Now it seems that's a lot of height, a lot of length up front. In that lineup, even if you list Chet as your power forward, I think he ends up playing the 3 in that lineup just because he obviously is so much more gifted on the perimeter there. But the amount of just the length and the rim protection you get
depth.
there. Yeah, and that's just your starting 5. We talked about the guys off the bench. If that is your starting 5, if you've got Julian Strother first off the bench, most likely.
6th man of the year in the WCC next year.
Dom
Guaranteed.
Harris for sure. Hunter Salas is in there. He's probably your first off the bench actually in that lineup. And then, like you said, we've got Caden Perry. We've got possibly Aaron Cook. That's a team where you could legitimately see them running 9 or 10 deep come March, which is different. We talked about it a lot. Seems like we talk about it every year that Mark Few always goes to that 7, maybe 8-man rotation in March. But that's a team where it's going to be really difficult to cut down that lineup to 7 guys just because you have so much talent ready to come in.
Well, as we get ready, as we mentioned, to watch this Gonzaga team enter the Sweet 16, hopefully play in an Elite 8 game next Tuesday, and then hopefully make this program's second Final Four in program history next weekend. It's crazy that we're able to peek into the future a little bit. Again, make sure you tune in. Make sure you have your notifications turned on because we will have an announcement, a decision on Friday morning from Hunter Salas. And so one of those pieces in the puzzle could come together very soon. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have Walker Kessler news by the end of the NCAA tournament, if not soon after. Yeah. So stay tuned. We will give you any updates that we get as we hear them and continue to cheer our Zags on as they go towards another Final Four.